This is a demonstration on how to do a port forward. In order to see your NVR, DVR cameras remotely, you need to allow the external address to be forwarded to the internal address of the device. The way we do this is we log into the routers and we set up a port forward on the ports required by Hikvision products. Hikvision requires you to forward 3 ports, and we'll talk about those. But the first thing you need to do is find out the address of your gateway. The easiest way to do that is to open up a command box, type ipconfig, and press enter, and it will show you what your IP address is and the IP address of your gateway, which is also your router. Now, not everybody has a command prompt saved to their taskbar. Go to Windows, do search, COM, and you already can see it. Click on it. Again, that's ipconfig, ipconfig, press enter, and you will then be able to see your IP address. You can also use a command prompt to ping, P-I-N-G, an IP address to decide what address to put your NVR on. So I'm going to ping 192.168.1.126, which is my address. And you see reply, 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 reply. Now, I'm going to hit F3 and I'm going to change that to 80. Hit enter, and we're going to get no replies. It takes 4 no replies for you to know that that is indeed an unreachable address. Now you can close this box by clicking it, or you just type EXIT and it closes the box. Now, I'm going to open up Internet Explorer. And I'm going to type in the router's address. I'm going to go to Advanced Setup, Port Forwarding, and I have my 3 ports set up, RTSP, server, and HTTP. I'm going to delete the service and show you how to do it again. Okay, so I'm going to add custom service. I'm going to call it RTSP. That defaults at 10.554. Some routers will allow you to do a single port forwarding and you don't have to do the range, but this one does a range. And I'm going to give it the address. I'm going to do 55 just because I know that's another one. Apply. Add custom service. HTTP. 8008. 8008. Forwarding port 80 will likely not work, so you need to use a higher number such as 8008. Now, this router allows me to uncheck the box here if I want to and give it an address of 80, so that if you're on a local network, you do not have to type :8008, but rather you can just type in the IP address, in this case 192.168.1.55. I'm going to hit apply, and I need one more. And server. Now, default is 8000. I'm going to use 8001 because this router happens to have somebody else using 8000. And we're doing 55. So now you see I have 3 ports RTSP, HTTP, and the server port forwarded to the IP address of 55. That's all you need to do, and you would now be able to see this remotely. Now, let's look at something else here. In our systems, if you go into the main menu, and you go down to System Configuration, you can go to Network Setup. So here I have the address 192.168.1.55. The subnet mask will populate automatically. The gateway 192.168.1.1. You need to also add a DNS address. The DNS address is necessary in order for the DDNS service to work. This allows our server to find the HIKE DDNS server. On the more settings, you can find the ports. In this case, server port 8000, HTTP port 80, RTS port 10554. If your router does not support an external address different than internal, like the one I just did, you would need to change your HTTP port to something like 8008. And obviously, to make it work with the one that I just did, I would also change my server port here to 8001. Now, for DDNS to work, you have that DNS address in there correctly. You would click on Enable. The high DDNS is there by default. By default, it automatically puts in the www.hike-online.com that you need, and then you put in the name. The name that you create needs to be lowercase. It cannot start with numbers. It can be a number like Main Street 123, but it cannot be 123 Main Street. So again, lowercase, no numbers to begin with, and you can create it. You click Apply. You'll get a Save Succeeded. You'll know that you've been successful. And then you would go to www.hike-online.com/ the name that you created, in the picture here, My Home DVR. And that is all there is you need to do a port forward in order to see these units remotely. Now I want to show you one other thing, which is how to change the IP address to your computer. I have saved in my favorites a link to network sharing. I'm going to go change adapter settings. I'm going to right click on the adapter. I'm going to go to Properties. I'm going to pull it down, go to Properties, and then this is where I put the IP address in. By default, your computer, it comes like this: obtain IP address automatically. That's so that when you join a network, like if Wi-Fi at Starbucks, it automatically would get an address from that router and then you'd be able to surf the internet. But to be able to connect to our devices, sometimes it's necessary to change the IP address of your computer by clicking on the button there and typing in an address like 192.168.254. I'm going to say 200. That's a number that's high. And then 192.168.254.1. That's known as the internal NIC address on our DVR, which is the address that belongs to all the devices connected to the PoE ports. If I make this change and I save it and I close it, I could now have a Cat5 cable between my laptop and one of the PoE ports on the NVR and be able to see all the cameras that are connected to the NVR. Now, I would be able to see them even if I did not change my address. SADP would display those cameras for me, but I would not be able to log into those cameras and make changes to those cameras unless I modified my IP address. Now, not everybody has a shortcut to that, so you can come into the search button here and go to Control Panel and go to your network settings, change adapter settings, right click the adapter you need to change, go to Properties, go down to TCP/IP4, Properties, make the changes you need to make sure you save it, close it, and then those things are saved. I hope that helps you. If you have any questions, please feel free to call tech support.